What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Blood on the Razor Wire TV, where we bring it to you real and we bring it to you raw. Got a good guest on today. Been through some things, seen some things, been involved in something where his celly ends up stealing $10 worth of stamps and loses his life at USP McCreary. We'll get into that in a minute. But, Cat, tell the people who you are, where you're from. Let's talk about you, brother.
All right, I'm Cat. I'm from D.C. I'm residing in North Carolina now. You know, one thing I wanted to say, man, about that re-entry stuff, man, they didn't have nothing for me, man, when I came home, man. Nothing at all, man. If I didn't have a good mother, man, I would have been dead in the water, man. I couldn't even get food stamps because they said I was a convicted drug trafficker, man. It's crazy.
Yeah,
But this is the longest I've been out as an adult, man. And I'm going on 5 years now. So I'm really proud of that, man.
Let's talk a little bit about you and how you end up in prison, what your life was like. You said you're from D.C. What was it like growing up in D.C. for you?
Man, it was lovely, man. I love the city, man. You know, one thing I want to say while I got you up here, man, that shit that happened down there at the monument, at the Capitol that day, if those would have been black people down there, we would have all been dead, man. And, you know, we used to go down there we used to have a lot of stuff down there all the time, you know, and if anything ever, you know, they had their guns, they ready to kill you. So I know if we'd have stormed that Capitol that day, we would have all been dead. But go ahead, man. I'm sorry. I just had to get that off my chest.
All right. So anyway, life in D.C., man, what was it like for you growing up? Was it wild back then?
Yeah, it was pretty wild. I mean, the city's always been wild. You know, like in the 80s, it was called The City Under Siege, and they had, shows, about the crack epidemic and all that stuff. But, all in all, man, it's a great place to live, really, man. You know, they got some of the greatest jobs you can get, man. You know, they're mostly government jobs, federal and city jobs. Yeah.
What led you into a life of crime, though? That's kind of where I'm going.
Well, I've always, since I was a little kid, man, I always had a knack for, just, being curious about certain things. So I remember when I was about maybe 11 or going on 12, I saw some papers. I think they were called Easy Widers, and they came in different flavors like strawberry and licorice. And though I never smoked weed before, I wanted to buy some of these papers. So I bought the papers, and probably about maybe 3 or 4 months later, I finally got some weed. So I just started getting high probably when I was about 12. And, it just spiraled out of control, when I became an adult. And
when you say spiraled out of control, what does it lead to?
It led me, my first adult crime. I got caught up, in a situation that cost me 10 years of my life, right? So I went in when I was like 23. I think I came home, I was 32. And at that time I was dealing with PCP. You know, at the time we were calling it Love Boat, right? And anyway, to make a long story short, when I got out from that, I started while I was in the Maryland House of Correction in Jessup, I started snorting heroin. And when I came home, I became addicted to heroin and that sort of thing. So I was from 32 till I say from 92 till 99. I was pretty much in and out of the county jail and that sort of thing. I didn't catch another bit until 99. I caught a UUB and I went down Lawton, stayed down Lawton from 99 to 2000. And I went to Butner, North Carolina, and got when they didn't even have a medium or nothing there. It was like they just had the low. And they had that medical thing there. And from there, they sent us to a contract place in Virginia, where they killed the DC sniper, Greensville, Virginia. And once I got out from there, I ended up catching another bid and went up to Roxbury up Hagerstown and ended up going back to like Jessup to like a pre-release center or whatever. And I think in around 2009, I was in the Supermax in Maryland, waiting to, because I had caught a dirty on while I was, incarcerated. So they put me in the Supermax there. Once I got out of the Supermax, they paroled me from the Supermax. The lady asked me, about what happened. I told her, I said, it was a bunch of people in the back, they were doing some things and I participated in some things that I shouldn't have. And I caught a dirty on because I had a lot on my mind at that time. And so she said, well, that's okay. We're going to parole you anyway. And, so that was crazy, man. But it was I pretty much maxed out, though. I guess they gave me probably about a month or something like that.
Let's talk about let's talk about this last bid that you catch, right? You've been out for 5 years now, living a better life. That last bid that you catch in the feds, what was that for?
That was for drug trafficking in a 924C. I had a gun that was wrapped in plastic. It was in fact, at the time I didn't realize it. It was a World Nambu. It was an 8mm gun that shot 9mm rounds, and it was made in the 1940s for the Japanese Army in World War II. And they said no ammunition was found in my house nowhere, no bullets nowhere. And they said that gun, because the crack was in the ceiling and the gun was wrapped in plastic under my mattress, that the gun was in furtherance of a drug trafficking offense. And they gave me 12 years. They gave me 30 months or something like 120, 130 months or something like that. They gave me it was 12 years, 140 months, whatever it was. Obama took 14 months off with that crack law.
So you probably had 144 months, right? Obama.
Yeah, that's what it was, 144. It was 144 months. And he took 14 months off when I was in USP McCreary, man. I got a letter in the thing saying that he had taken it off. Yeah.
Let me take you to McCreary, because we talked about a case the other day and what the violence was like and stuff like that. What was USP McCreary like for you when you got there?
Well, by me being from DC, man, I got a rack of homies there. So it was probably like 400 of us, I guess, on the yard there. So, I mean, I knew a rack of people there. I mean, I'm a seasoned vet with that. So it was my first time going to the pen from the FCI besides Atlanta. And Atlanta, it really wasn't a pen, but it was kind of like it still had the name pen, but it really wasn't. And I was there like in 14. So when I get to McCreary, as soon as I get to the unit, man, I see guys that I've been locked up with since the 80s and stuff like that. So, it wasn't no big thing for me. The biggest thing I had to watch out for was my homies doing something or somebody doing something to one of my homies. And, we got to do something like that because we stayed in a Mexican standoff with the GDs when I was in 4C. I mean, it's like, every day, man, we got to walk around with floaters in the crack of our ass because we don't, you never know when it's going to jump off, They had
Let me stop you for a minute because you said floaters. Some people are watching don't know what a floater is. Tell them what a floater is.
A floater is a knife that you can make out of anything that's not metal. Most people use plastic. They use things out of the steel toe boots, that they have a plastic piece in there. A lot of times that they use, you can use trays out of the kitchen, those plastic lockup trays. People make them out of anything, man, that they can float around with. The reason why they call it a floater is so you can move from one corridor or one unit or one place to another because they have metal detectors just about everywhere.
A floater will float right through the metal detector. You're never detected. You walk right through, go wherever you want to go, and now you got a knife.
Absolutely. Right. And, that's the kind of spot, I would rather be caught with it than without it.
We're going to get back to McCreary, though. I want to know why you left the FCI. Why'd you get kicked out of an FCI, a medium security prison?
Oh, a guy, I used to work in the kitchen, man, in Atlanta, man, was a hell of a spot, man. They had two lines, one for paying customers and one for people who just got the regular food. And I was working in the kitchen, and one of the guys from Atlanta told me one day, I tried to get a bag of potato chips, right? Because we all work on the line, so I don't see why I can't get a bag of chips. And he tells me that I can't have a bag of chips, right? So I thought he was playing at first. So I said, man, are you serious? So he said, yeah. So I went to like grab the bag of chips, and he took the box and started shaking it. I said you couldn't get none. So I acted like I was walking off and just knocked his ass out. And I stepped over him. At the time, I don't realize that my hand is bleeding, right? So I step over him, and I hear somebody say, what happened? What happened to him? And somebody said, somebody hit him or whatever like that. But I go in the back and try to wash my hand and whatnot. So finally, they run down on me. They take me through the corridor. My hand is dripping blood all through the corridor, right, to the elevators to get to the shoe or whatever. So I'm asking the captain. I say, Captain, man, are you going to take me to medical, man? You see my hand is bleeding all over the place. So he tells me, don't tell him how to be a captain, and he won't tell me how to be an inmate, right? Well, anyway, this was in 14. So in 17, while I'm at McCreary, I meet a lot of guys like you that do legal work. And the dude started the lawsuit for me, and I ended up technically I won it because they asked me to take $12,500 when I got home, and I refused to take it because I won in the magistrate court, I won in the district court, but when it went to the 11th Circuit being so conservative, they shot the deliberate indifference down. And we ended up in the Supreme Court. I think I sent you that a copy of the book that they sent me. Yeah, but anyway, so I'm at USP in Atlanta. That happened. My hand ended up swelling up like a boxing glove. I still had a cut here. They 3 days after this happened, I finally get to medical, right? By kicking on and banging on my door, and a good cop happened to come by and saw my hand and say, yeah, wait, I got to get you to medical. So once I get to medical, the medical team look at my hand, assess it, and say, man, we got to get you out of here. You got to go to the hospital. So I went straight to Atlanta Medical Center, where they operated on my hand the very next morning.
So that's how you leave Atlanta. Were you in the FCI before Atlanta?
Yeah, I started out in the FCI. I started out in Williamsburg, South Carolina. That's where I beat my celly with the lock for stealing stamps. Then when I get to USP McCreary, somebody else steals $10 worth of stamps, another homeboy out of my cell. And he ultimately lost his life because of it. It's crazy, man.
I pulled that case up the other day. Kind of break it down, man. How does this, this kid steals stamps from you and then he ends up getting killed and you're not charged? What happens?
Well, this is what happens, man. The guy, at first, he was on the other side of the jail, on the yellow side. He was on the blue side, where I started out. I started out on the blue side, and then they had a program. When you get within 5 years of your sentence, they would send you to the yellow side to this program, right? So when I got within 5 years, they sent me over there to the yellow side. Anyway, to make a long story short, the guy had been checked in on the blue side, was stealing, but he had a big homie. I ain't gonna call them names, but the big homie on that side decided, since he was from his neighborhood, he was gonna give him a shot, and he voted for him to come back out the hole, but to go on the yellow side. So he sent the problem over there to us. You see what I'm saying? So he gets over there, instead of him stealing from an out of town or something, he steals from me, right? So I don't find out. This happened like at lunchtime. I guess I find out about 6 o'clock. And the only reason why I found out, I had a store, so I had bags of stuff just hanging in my cell, right? A commissary and everything. And I keep my locker open. I never had a lock, man. I never used the lock. So anyway, to make a long story short, I had these black stamps that had bursting bombs on them. But the stamps in the jail were the Bell stamps. So I got like stacks of those Bell stamps in my locker, but I only had one flat book of these bursting black bomb stamps. And he ended up taking the one book of the bursting black stamps, right? And so when I realized that my stamps, that one book of stamps is missing, I started asking people, did they see anybody go on my cell? So the homie say, yeah, man, we saw old boy go in there at lunchtime. You know, what you want to do? They already know what I want to do. So we tricked the first one in the cell, which I chopped up and everything, and kicked him out of the cell. When I kicked him out of the cell, I got the knife in my sleeve, right? The other joker is right there at the door trying to come in that cell that we were in, right? But when he sees what's happening, the other guy like brushes past him when I kicked him out of the door. So now he sees what's going on because the other guy leaking from everywhere. So he sees what's going on. So he tries to run from me. And that's when you know, other people just took the matter into their own hands, man. I mean, they did that right there in the pod. I mean, you know, you saw how that happened on the video thing you got or whatever. But yeah, that wasn't too nice.
They're beating him to death, right? Or do they stab him? What happens?
Nah, they trying to say that one guy had hit him once in the chest upstairs, and he walked downstairs, and then two guys jumped on him, one with a lock and the other one with a knife. And you know, the cops is just like, stop, please stop. It was like a lady that had just started working there. She hadn't even been there 8 months, man. I don't know why they put her in the pod by herself like that. And she was literally in there by herself. You know, they supposed to have two people at the pen, right? Well, anyway, she was begging them to stop or whatever. And I guess they wasn't paying attention, man. Wasn't listening.
This kid dies. We pulled the case up the other day. And his mother said, hey, he had some mental health problems. He should have never been in that. You know how much time that kid had before he was going home? Do you know?
I think he was like super short, man. I don't even think he had a year left, man.
Ends up losing his life. I think he gets sentenced to like 5 or 7 years. He's in the penitentiary. He's in there stealing. He steals shit and ends up losing his life.
It's crazy, man. You know, I mean, you know, people got to know, man, they can't, you know, you don't, that's one place you don't steal like in that penitentiary. They get away with the shit like that in the FCI, but in that pen, man, you know, they hitting heads in there.
You feel bad about that? You feel bad that dying over $10?
I beg your pardon?
Do you feel bad that kid ends up dying over $10 in stamps?
Yeah, of course I feel bad about it. I mean, you know, it is what it is, man. I mean, there wasn't nothing I could do about it. I mean, I didn't tell nobody to do that to him. You know, it's sad, but it's true, man.
Let me ask you this. You know, you were in that penitentiary, man. You've been in jail your whole life, as you said. You know, what was some of the wildest shit you've seen at McCreary, bro?
Well, some of the wild, this is what I think wild is. I seen a bunch of people, man, get fucked over, man. Like, especially like white boys, man. White guys have it the worst, man, in federal prison as far as I'm concerned. Because once they come in there, they have to put in work. I mean, like, there's no way around it. It's like, you know, you got to do it. So it was a guy named Tallahassee, man. I'll never forget him. He was from Florida, a white guy. You know, he had a football pool and everything. You know, he was pretty good dude. He was in the drug scene and all that. So he had money and stuff. So, of course, you know, them guys get jealous of you after a while and stuff like that when you're in the little cliques and stuff. And they finally they caught him over the gym, man. And man, that was one of the worst whippings, man, stompings. You know, they kick you all in the head, the face, man. And they don't stop, man, until the police, you know, are actually pulling them off you or they macing you or whatever like that. I mean, you know, then I saw another guy, three of them go out there to do burpees or whatever, and the one guy is across. How they put two in front and one in front of the other guy when they're doing those exercises. So like the first guy will go down, and then the second two guys, when he comes up, will go down and do theirs. And man, when that first guy went down to do his, the other two guys just commenced to stomp in his face, his head from the back of the head, slamming to the ground, man. And they did that, man. I know, man, for a good 2 or 3 minutes before the guards realized what was going on. Then I saw another bad one, where they tricked the guy and walked him around the yard, and then one tackled him, like around the neck, just yanked him down, and they beat that boy, man, to so bad. I mean, they beat him for about 10 minutes because they kept laying in the grass like they was playing or something. So the police didn't know they was really messing this guy up, right? And they did so much damage to the guy until he's still in a wheelchair now, slobbering, man.
Talk about Tallahassee for a minute, right? Talk about the guy Tallahassee. You said something kind of interesting that people don't really realize happens probably in prison. This guy's out there, he's getting money, he's got a ticket, he's the man. Dudes are like, oh shit, what's up? Probably kind of kissing his ass, but eventually, you said sometimes people get jealous, right? How's that whole thing work, man? What, he was making money, so other people are like, yo, we want that, or they just disliked him? How's that usually work in federal prison?
That's how it works. It's politics, man. It's the most political place I ever seen, man. I mean, everything is politics. Like, for example, the guy that I told you that was walking around the track, for example, right? This dude was an AC, right? An Aryan Circle guy. Had been in the gang for years. I mean, 10, 15 years, The guy had put in work. I think he even had a jailhouse murder or whatever, right? He's getting that K2 in. I mean, like boatloads of it. So, I mean, he's making a lot of money. Like one page could go for as much as 10 grand. Because they break them down into IDs and sell them for like $500 to $1,000 an ID. So you get about 16 IDs off a page. So anyway, his own kind, got jealous and, envious, even though he would break them off, he felt like he shouldn't, I guess, sell the stuff to the blacks and stuff like that, or whatever. So they ended up putting a fake bone on the guy, talking about now, after 30 years of being in the gang, now all of a sudden you a child molester. And they turned on him, man. Robbed him. They're going to rob him, right? Take all his shit. That's how it works, man.
He's getting money. They're jealous. They're like, yo, we need to get what he's got. So they make up a story that he's got a child predator case. And they pretty much, do they kill him? Do they stab him? What do they do?
Man, this was the worst whipping, man, I ever seen, man. They whipped this boy, I know, for a good 10 or 15 minutes, man. Stomped him, kicked him, punched him in the, they crushed him, man. Everybody's just watching, right? Eventually, that's what drew a tip, because people would, like literally stopping to see this shit. I guess the police, that's how they ended up, start buying the shots and stuff after that.
How about stabbing? You talk a lot about people getting beat in McCreary. You see people getting stabbed over there?
Man, the first night I got there, right? The bus I came in on, I guess it was about 40 of us on the bus. I guess about 12 of guys were white, and the rest were like Mexicans and black or whatever, or some type of what do you call it? Some type of Latino or something, right? And a lot of like I remember one guy in particular, man, he was real mouthy, talking about he had robbed the gun store and he had broke into the police station and stole all the guns, and how he was a stand-up dude and all of this shit. And so when we how you line up and you get for everybody that they call your name and everything. I guess out of that 40 people, man, that got to USP McCreary with me, I guess maybe only 2 white guys went out. Three went out, and by the second week, only one of them was left. They hard on white guys in there, man. They find anything, man, to check them in, man. And you don't just get to walk up. They, you know how that go. It ain't no walking up. You got to go to the hospital. You know what I mean? That's crazy, man. That's a crazy life, man. But you gotta live it if you in there. So you gotta make the best of it, man. I
Let me
remember
ask you
you
this.
talking about how you and Adam and all y'all bonded so well, man, because it's like y'all against the world really while you in there, man. So your buddies and your friends and your comrades and whatnot, man, you become, very enamored with them, and you can really become close to guys in a sense of camaraderie. You know what I mean? You know what I mean. I don't know if our guests know what I mean, but I know you do.
Let me ask you this, right? We'll get back to Adam for a minute because you were in McCreary with Adam. I'm sure he was the white shot caller when you were there. But when you come in on a bus, right, you're going to a place like McCreary. How many dudes do you see are kind of like scared that really don't want to go out?
I think altogether, I want to say it was 40 people on the bus. About 12 of them were white. 3 of them went out. Out of the rest of them, I want to say maybe 28 to maybe 30 people. Maybe probably about 20 some people went out there. I don't think a lot of them lasted, because they got 30 days to get their paperwork and stuff like that. But in the case of those 3 white guys, they got found out before paperwork, you know. And then, I was going to tell you, when I first got there, the first night that I was there, it was somebody on one of those guys on the bus got killed. They tricked him. He had told on some dude at in Lewisburg at the SMOO program, right? And some kind of way the dude was already at USP McCreary. So when this dude finally gets out of the SMOO, they end up sending him to USP McCreary. So you know what they did? They welcomed him when he came in. They gave him, like tennis shoes and all of those stuff that they give new people when, in independent car or whatever. And after that, that night they fed him and everything, man. Got him drunk, man, and they killed him.
It's a wild life to live in there, right? When I talk about the bus, not just white dudes, are there black dudes on that bus that are scared to go out there, or Hispanics?
Yeah, there's a whole lot of people that's scared to go out there. I mean, everybody gonna have a bit of apprehension because you don't know what to expect once you get there. You know what I mean? If you've never been there before, even I had some apprehension. But of course, I knew that I was going to know people there because, it's just we have a disproportionate amount of inmates in federal prison because we don't have a prison system. So, if any of these East Coast yards, it's going to be anywhere from 200 to 500, DC guys there,
DC guys, when you're going to a prison, do you think it's easier for DC dudes? I mean, dudes that ain't fucked up or done anything to be like, yo, I'm about to go to the yard because they know that they got 400 or 500 DC homies there. Do you think it's easier for them to get off the bus?
Yeah, I got to admit to that. Yeah. And the sad part about that is, these young dudes, right? Because they from DC, they kind of feel like they can do little stuff that they shouldn't be doing, like breaking, a lot of the little prison rules and stuff, right? So a lot of times, man, we end up having to admonish them and, and sometimes even check them in for doing, stuff like stealing and doing, stuff that they shouldn't be doing, you know what I mean? But because they got numbers, they want to walk around, sometimes with their chest poked out.
You talk about the white dudes, not being able to walk up. That means that they can't just, say, hey, all right, I'm leaving. I did something wrong. I'm just going to go to
right. You can't, it ain't none of that.
What about the black dudes though? Are they allowed to just walk up, black dudes from DC, or do they always get punished?
Well, in our thing, like if, for example, you can walk up in certain instances. Like we had a guy, that I grew up in the cut with him back in the 80s, and he had sold a knife or something to another race, right? And we found out about it, and so he ended up getting crushed. But at that, by an individual, right? Because it was that individual's knife. So when we found out what he had done with the knife, we held a meeting. I think it was about 13 or 14 of us present in the meeting, and we took a vote. Everybody voted that he had to go, even though, we loved him to death, but he violated one of the worst things you could do. You're going to arm somebody else, right? Anyway, to make a long story short, we let him walk up.
Give the knife to a different race?
Yeah, he gave it to the white car. He sold it to one of the whites.
So a black dude from DC sells a knife to the white car. He's arming, I guess you could say, your opposition, your ops.
Right. Absolutely.
And because of that, he gets to go to PC and he don't get beat on.
I told you the dude whose knife, he was supposed to be holding a knife for a guy, right? So the knife disappears. Only him and the dude know where the knife is hid at, right? So the young dude punished him. I mean, he couldn't even go eat or nothing, man, because this shit was out here like that. But anyway, so then when we got in the cell, another thing, I didn't tell the whole thing. He tried to trick the young dude in the cell so he could try to stab him, right? And one of the big homies, Wee, man, I'll never forget, he happened to be able to grab him and disarm him, right? Before he could try to stab the dude. And we all voted that he had to leave, and he just left. We let him walk up.
Talked about Adam. I talk about Adam in my book. Adam was my cellie at Big Sandy. He stabs the cop. He ends up he actually ends up at McCreary. What was Adam like? Was he the shot caller for the white dudes over there?
Yeah, Adam was pretty laid back, but like you could tell, man, that the dudes, highly respected him. Like as soon as he got there, man, that's Adam, like it was, the words they were whispering, because I get along with everybody, I mean, even, like even some of the Aryan Circle dudes, I talk to, they buy stuff from me, the whole 9 yards, right? So, I had a pretty good rapport with them, while I was there. We exchanged things and, did a few things, you know what I mean? But, yeah, he's a pretty good dude, man. He's from New York, right?
He's from New York, yes.
Yeah, I thought he was from New York. Yeah, I think he might have been. What was he involved with the mafia or anything?
Yeah, he ended up catching a state case with a mob guy. He kills someone. He gets 20 years in the state. I think he gets 20 years in the feds. Then he stabs the cop, gets another 17 or 18 years in the feds. So pretty much, he ended up with a life sentence when it's all said and done, man.
Damn, man. That's sad, man. There's some dudes in there, man, that really shouldn't even be in there, though, man, when you think about it. And then this is what I wanted to say to you. I said, if I ever got a chance to talk to you, I wanted to tell you this. And I also, like in the case of like guys being from DC, right? A lot of times, like a guy from DC might get a violation, right? For from the courts, or whatever, like for, say you get a probation violation or a parole violation, right? And say you only got a 3-month hit or whatever, right? So you're only going to be locked up for 3 months. You might sit over to jail for 2 months and they send you to USP McCreary or the Pollock or one of these pens, then you only have 30 days left. You might have 10 days left and you end up in one of these spots, man. It's crazy, man.
How old are you now? How old are you now,
I'm
Cat?
63, man.
63 years old. Spent many years of your life in prison. You've been out the longest you've ever been out now. You said you've been out 5 years. What are you doing in your life now?
Okay, I'm doing several things, man. Right now, I buy and sell cars. I have a camper that I rent out. I'm getting ready to get another one so I can have 2 of them that I can rent out. I can probably fit about 6 of them out here. So that's my ultimate goal, is to get about 6 of them, because if you grew up like I did, by the time I was 18, I had 3 ice cream trucks, right? So I always, was a hustler, right? So I really didn't do a lot of working. So in March the 14th of this year, a day before my birthday, I retired. You know how much money I get a month?
How much?
$404, man.
$404. What are you supposed to do with that?
In the wintertime, I can't even pay my electric bill with that because it's about $4.80. You know what I mean? But God provides, man. He always makes a way. So I'm not gonna complain about that. But I'm for the listeners. If you young, if you still in your 20s, 30s, even 40s, man, and you never really worked, you better get to working because you ain't gonna get nothing when you when you retire. Yeah.
Well, listen, man, let me ask you this. Before we get ready to go, what's going to keep you out of prison? You've been out 5 years. What keeps you out now?
Oh, man. What keeps me out, man, is watching your show, the crazy wildness that's still going on in there. Man, you don't want to have to live like that. I tell any of y'all young guys, man, I mean, this is real, man. When you get to that penitentiary, man, it's the kid gloves come off, man. It ain't no FCI, it ain't no low. I mean, this shit, man, is real, man. I mean, it could go down at any time, man. And it ain't even got to be you with the beef. Like say it's a race thing or something. Or say they get into it with like a certain ethnic group, and you just happen to be of that ethnic group. They not asking you if you from Chicago or if you from DC or if you from wherever. They want to start tearing your ass up, man. So I mean, it's best to stay out of places like that, man.
100%, man. I can't agree with you more. We talked about this other, killing that happened at McCreary. I'm going to drop a documentary on it with some white dudes. We looked at the pictures. Dude stabbed 60 times. Those are the things that make me say, you know what? I don't never want to be back in that environment, back in that position. So, that's what I feel like keeps me out of that, and my family, obviously, my kids.
Yeah. I wanted to finish by saying this, that, they sent me from when that murder stuff happened, right? They separated everybody and sent us all to different places, but they ended up sending me to USP McCreary to the RDAP program. And man, I mean USP Canaan, I'm sorry, in the mountains, man. That's one of the worst places in the world to be, man. That's probably the worst pen right there, man, because that cop was killed there. So, the cops are just super, man, just super cops, man. They throw away your stuff. If you go to the hole, you don't get no property, man. You can forget that. You can send home. It's terrible.
I've been there through transit, man. I was stuck there for like 45 days because of a snowstorm. It's definitely horrible. Anything you want to say before we get ready to go, though, Cat?
Yeah, I want to say this too, man. It had got so bad, like at McCreary, right? Till, like shit happening in the chow hall and stuff like that. Until now, all 3 meals they bring them to you, man. Or you pick them up and go back to the unit or whatever. It's crazy.
Well, listen, man, I'm going to tell people, man, if you like what we're doing, man, I appreciate you coming on. If you like what we're doing, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. This is your boy Cat, straight out of D.C., now relocated to North Carolina, living his best life. Blood on the Razor Wire TV, with respect until tomorrow.
And thank you, brother.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you.